The courtroom was a pressure cooker, and Elena Hayes was about to be served as the main course. 8 months pregnant, betrayed, and fighting for her life, she locked eyes with her husband's mistress. The woman Chloe was also pregnant, and she was smiling a smug, victorious grin. Elena stood to testify to tell the world the truth, but the room started to spin. She saw the grin, she clutched her belly, and she fell. The mistress laughed, but her victory was cut short because in the chaos no one saw the bailiff hand the judge a single sealed manila envelope, a file that would burn their entire web of lies to the ground. Life for Elena Hayes had been a carefully curated masterpiece. Their home in Greenwich, Connecticut wasn't just a house. It was a glass and cedar statement featured in Architectural Digest. Its vast windows overlooked a manicured lawn that rolled down to a private sliver of the Long Island Sound. Inside, the colors were muted beiges, soft grays, and cream. It was a home built for silence, for calm, for the kind of wealth that doesn't need to shout. And at the center of it, until 6 months ago, was Marcus Hayes. Marcus was the co-founder of Auratech, a data security firm that had become Silicon Valley's darling. He was handsome in that generically expensive way, bespoke suits, a $30,000 Patek Philippe watch, and a smile that had for 10 years been reserved exclusively for Elena. Now, at 8 months pregnant with their first child, a child they had fought for through 3 grueling rounds of IVF, that smile was gone. It had been replaced by the clipped, sterile interactions of a man hiding a second life. The discovery wasn't a single dramatic event. It was 1,000 tiny paper cuts. It was the late-night strategy sessions that left his shirt smelling faintly of jasmine and sandalwood, a perfume Elena didn't own. It was the way he angled his phone away from her on the sofa. It was the new password-protected laptop he claimed was for board-sensitive material. Elena, exhausted by the difficult pregnancy, had tried to ignore it. She blamed her hormones. She blamed the stress of the upcoming baby. She blamed herself. The truth finally detonated on a rainy Tuesday. Marcus was in the shower, and his work phone, the new one, buzzed on the marble vanity. Elena didn't mean to look, but the name on the screen wasn't Bill from Legal or Auratech Board. It was Chloe. The message preview read, "He's still sleeping. God, I can't wait until she's out, and this is our room. Did you tell her yet?" Elena felt the blood drain from her face, replaced by an icy cold. The floor seemed to drop away. She was holding onto the vanity, her knuckles white, when the shower door slid open. Marcus stopped, steam rolling off his shoulders. He saw her face, saw the phone, and his expression wasn't guilt. It was annoyance. "Elena, you shouldn't be touching that." "Who is Chloe?" Her voice was a dry whisper. "She's an associate from the new funding round." He reached for a towel, dismissive. "She's sleeping in your hotel room. She's waiting for me to be out so it can be her room." The words felt like glass in her throat. Marcus sighed, the sound of a man deeply put upon. "It's complicated, Elena. You're pregnant. You're emotional. You're not thinking clearly." "Don't you dare!" she hissed, a surge of adrenaline cutting through the shock. "Don't you dare use our child against me. Who is she?" He wrapped the towel around his waist. The kindness was gone, replaced by a cold, corporate finality. "Her name is Chloe Bennett, and yes, we're involved." Elena stumbled back, her hand flying to her rounded belly. "Involved?" "I was going to tell you after the baby was born," he said, as if this were a kindness. "There was no point upsetting you in your condition." "Upsetting me?" she shrieked, the sound foreign and raw in their silent, perfect house. "You're sleeping with another woman while I'm carrying your child." "That's the other thing, Elena," Marcus said, walking past her to the walk-in closet. He began pulling out a suitcase. "The other thing," he emerged, pulling a crisp shirt over his head. "Chloe's pregnant, too." Elena physically recoiled. "What? She's 6 months along. We're going to have a son." He wouldn't look at her. He was fastening his watch, the one she'd bought him for their 10th anniversary. 6 months? Elena did the math. His trips to Singapore, the all-night coding sessions, it had been going on for almost a year. He hadn't just made a mistake. He had built a separate, parallel life. "I'm filing for divorce," he said, zipping the suitcase. "My lawyer David Stone will be in touch with you tomorrow. He'll be handling the dissolution of assets." Dissolution of assets. Elena was hyperventilating. "Marcus, this is our home. This is our baby. You can't just leave." He finally looked at her, and the man she had loved for a decade was gone. In his place was a stranger, a CEO liquidating a failed investment. "It's already done, Elena. The divorce papers are drawn up. We have a prenup, remember? It's very clear. You'll be well compensated for your time." "My time? I'll have a car send your things to your sister's place. I think it's best if you're out by the end of the day. Chloe's moving in. Her pregnancy has been difficult and she needs a calm environment." He was kicking her out. He was kicking his pregnant wife out of her home to move his pregnant mistress in. Elena sank to the floor, a strangled sob escaping her. "Please, Marcus. The baby. Our baby." He paused at the bedroom door, suitcase in hand. "I'll have my lawyer discuss visitation. After the paternity is established, of course." And with that, he was gone. The front door clicked shut, the sound echoing through the cavernous, empty house. Elena was left alone on the cold marble floor, the scent of jasmine and betrayal hanging in the air. The masterpiece was shattered, and the pieces were sharp enough to kill. The next 48 hours were a blur of humiliation. The car Marcus sent wasn't a town car. It was a sterile, impersonal moving van from a discreet relocations service. 2 men who wouldn't make eye contact packed her life into boxes, supervised by a sharp-suited young woman from David Stone's law firm. Elena wasn't allowed to pack her own things. She was according V to the legal letter the woman handed her, a potential risk for the malicious destruction of marital property. She ended up at her sister Isabel's small, cluttered but warm apartment in Stamford. Isabel, a fiercely protective ER nurse, took one look at Elena's gray face and shattered eyes and declared war. "He's not just a pig, Elena," Isabel said, wrapping her in a quilt. "He's a monster, a sociopath. Dissolution of assets. He sounds like he's closing a factory, not ending a marriage." The first legal documents arrived the next day. They were even more brutal than the eviction. Marcus and his lawyer David Stone, a man notorious for scorched earth tactics, weren't just filing for divorce. They were contesting the prenup. "On what grounds?" Elena asked, her voice hoarse, staring at the paperwork from Isabel's sofa. "He's claiming, oh, Lena, this is disgusting," Isabel said, her voice tight with rage. "He's claiming you were unfaithful, that your erratic behavior and infidelity voided the infidelity clause, making all premarital assets his alone. He's accusing me—" Elena laughed, a broken, hysterical sound. "He's the one who's having a baby with another woman. A woman who is now apparently living in your house." This was confirmed a day later, and in the most public way possible. Chloe Bennett, it turned out, was not the quiet associate Marcus had implied. She was a 26-year-old Instagram model turned brand consultant who had been hired by Aura Tech 6 months prior. And she was not discreet. Her Instagram, previously private, was suddenly public. The first post was a selfie. She was standing in Elena's kitchen, wearing one of Elena's silk robes, holding a coffee mug that said, Mrs. Hayes. Her own pregnancy bump was prominent. The caption, finally settling into my new home. So blessed to be building a family with the love of my life, M. Sometimes you have to clear out the old to make way for the new. Blessed, new beginnings, hat family. Elena threw her phone across the room. She's taunting me. Elena wept. Isabel picked up the phone, her face grim. There were more photos. Chloe in Elena's garden. Chloe in the master bedroom, wrapped in Marcus's arms, her hand and a new massive diamond splayed on his chest. Chloe in the half-finished nursery, pointing at the gray and yellow color scheme. Redecorating this drab space, baby boy Hayes deserves so much more. Any theme ideas? This was the campaign. It wasn't just a divorce, it was an erasure. Elena hired Sarah Jenkins, a lawyer, whose reputation was the opposite of David Stone's. She wasn't a shark. She was a bulldog. Calm, tenacious, and she hated bullies. This is classic, Sarah said in their first meeting, her office a comfortable book-filled space that smelled of coffee and old paper. It's a textbook replace and erase. He's not just leaving you, he's trying to nullify your existence legally and personally to install the new model. He's claiming I cheated Sarah. How can we fight that? He'll have proof, Sarah said, making air quotes. He'll have a private investigator, Mr. Harrison, who's been on his payroll for months. He'll have grainy photos of you having coffee with a male friend. He'll have hotel receipts from a business trip he'll claim was a tryst. It's all fabricated, but it's designed to muddy the water to paint you as an unstable, unfaithful wife. It's leverage. Leverage for what? He has all the money. The prenup, Elena, Sarah said gently. Your prenup has a $10 million payout. But the infidelity clause voids it. He doesn't want to pay you. He wants to destroy you. He and Ms. Bennett want to walk away with everything, and they're painting you as the villain so they can sleep at night. Our job is to prove they are lying. The next few weeks were a descent into legal hell. Elena was served with deposition notices. She was ordered to undergo a psychiatric evaluation, a motion filed by Stone, claiming her hormonal state made her an unreliable narrator. They demanded a paternity test for her unborn baby before it was born, an invasive and risky procedure. They're implying the baby isn't his, Elena whispered, horrified. It's not about the truth, Sarah said, her voice hardening. It's about pressure. They want you to break. They want you to get so tired, so scared for your baby that you'll just go away. That you'll sign whatever they put in front of you and accept a pittance to be left alone. Elena looked down at her swollen belly, feeling her daughter kick. A slow, cold fury she had never known began to build, pushing past the grief. No, Elena said, her voice flat and clear. I won't. This child will have her father's name, and she will have her inheritance. If he wants a war, Sarah, he's got one. Find everything. Sarah Jenkins and her team began to dig. This wasn't just a case of adultery. Sarah's gut told her it was a premeditated conspiracy. Men like Marcus Hayes don't just fall in love with a 26-year-old and risk their entire fortune, Sarah explained to Elena over a late-night call. Not unless they think they're in complete control. Or unless they're being manipulated by someone just as ruthless as they are. The first crack came from Aura Tech. A former executive assistant, a woman named Maria, had been fired by Marcus 3 months earlier. Her replacement, Chloe Bennett, who was given a VP of Brand Strategy title and a corner office. Maria reached out to Sarah's office after seeing the gossip on page 6. She wasn't his assistant, Maria said, her voice tight with anger. She was his handler. She was in every meeting. She isolated him. She'd listen in on calls, cut off access to old colleagues. She wasn't building a brand. She was building a fortress around him. And she hated Elena. "How do you know?" Sarah asked. "Chloe used to brag. She told me once over drinks she insisted we have, 'His wife is a relic, a museum piece. She's not a partner for a man like him. He needs someone young, hungry, someone like me.' Then a week later I was restructured out of a job." This was the motive. Chloe wasn't just a home wrecker. She was a corporate raider, and Elena's life was the company she was hostile takeovering. The next piece came from the finances. As Sarah's forensic accountants clawed through mountains of discovery, they found it a series of complex wire transfers. Over the last 6 months, Marcus had systematically moved over $20 million in marital assets funds that should have been part of the divorce settlement into offshore accounts. And from there, into a newly created blind trust. "The beneficiary of the trust," Sarah said, sliding a document across her desk to Elena. Elena's hand trembled as she read the name. "The Hayes Future Fund, registered in the Cayman Islands. And who is the trustee who has sole signatory power?" Elena read the next line and felt sick. Chloe Bennett. It was all there, the plan. It was never about love. It was a heist. Chloe had seduced Marcus, isolated him, convinced him to hide his assets, and secured control of them for herself. The countersuit against Elena, the claims of her infidelity, it was all a smokescreen to keep everyone looking the wrong way while Chloe emptied the vaults. Marcus was so arrogant, so blinded by his new conquest, he'd made his mistress the gatekeeper to his stolen fortune. "He's a fool," Elena whispered. "He's a complete and utter fool." "He's a fool, yes," Sarah agreed. "But she is a viper, and now we have to prove it in court. Stone will argue this was smart financial planning. We have to prove it was conspiracy to commit fraud." Just as they were preparing their strategy, David Stone's team played their trump card. A private investigator, a slick man named Mr. Harrison, served Elena at Isabel's apartment in front of her neighbors. He handed her a stack of photographs. They were of her. Grainy, long lens shots. Her meeting a man for coffee. Her letting the same man into Isabel's apartment building. The man was handsome, someone she didn't recognize. "What is this?" Elena said, shuffling through them, confused. "Evidence," Harrison said with a smirk. "Pre-trial discovery. Enjoy the show." She looked closer. The man was real, but she'd never met him. Then she saw it. The coffee shop photo was a composite. Her face, but the lighting was wrong. The photo of him at the apartment door he was walking in, but she wasn't in the frame. They had faked it. They had hired an actor and photoshopped a narrative to prove her infidelity. "They manufactured evidence," Elena said to Sarah, her voice shaking with rage. "They are lying. Outright, provably lying." "This is good," Sarah said, a cold, calculating look in her eye. "They're overplaying their hand. This is the act of desperate people, but it means they're willing to commit perjury. This Harrison, I'm going to find out who he is, and I'm going to find out who this male model is." A week later, Sarah's own investigator, a grizzled ex-cop named Jack Carver, got the ID. The man in the photos was an actor named Liam Ryder, a struggling actor and personal trainer. And that's when the final crucial piece of the puzzle arrived. It came not from an investigator, but from an anonymous email sent from a Proton mail account to Sarah's main inbox. Subject: You're looking at the wrong man. I used to work for Chloe Bennett. She's pure poison. You think Marcus Hayes is the only one she's playing? Check out Liam Ryder's gym. He's not just an actor. He's her real boyfriend. She's playing them both. She's been with Liam for 3 years. Don't let her win. Sarah and Elena stared at the email. My God, Elena breathed. It's not just Marcus she's fooling. She's not having Marcus's baby. Sarah said, the realization dawning on her. She's having Liam Ryder's baby. She needed a billionaire to pay for it. She and her boyfriend have been running a long con on Marcus from the very beginning. The 20 million trust, the house, the infidelity setup. It was all a script, and Marcus was the mark. But how do we prove it? Elena asked. It's just an anonymous email. We don't need to, Sarah said, her mind working fast. We have the name of the father, Liam Ryder. We have the name of her OB-GYN from her insurance filings, a Dr. Alistair Finch. She's 6 months pregnant. She's high risk given her difficult pregnancy she's posting about. She's almost certainly had genetic testing. And she's almost certainly had a prenatal paternity test. To confirm it wasn't Marcus's, no, Sarah said. To confirm it was Liam's. She'd want to be sure. She's not the type to leave a 20 million score to chance. Sarah picked up the phone. Get me a judge. I need an emergency sealed subpoena for the medical files of Chloe Bennett from the office of Dr. Alistair Finch. We're looking for one document, and one document only. The day of the divorce hearing the air in Courtroom 3B of the Stamford Superior Court was thick enough to chew. It was a media circus. The salacious details, the pregnant wife, the pregnant mistress, the tech millions had turned the case into local legend. Elena Hayes walked in, flanked by Sarah Jenkins. At 8.5 months pregnant, every step was a labor. She was pale, but composed. Her dark hair pulled back in a severe bun. She wore a simple navy maternity dress, a stark contrast to the woman sitting in the front row. Chloe Bennett was a vision of malicious triumph. She was also pregnant, her own belly pushed forward prominently in a bright, form-fitting crimson dress. She was dripping in new diamonds, the earrings, the necklace, the gaudy engagement ring. She sat next to Marcus, her hand possessively on his knee, whispering into his ear and laughing. When Elena entered, Chloe met her gaze. She didn't look away. She didn't flinch. She grinned. It was a wide, slow, predatory grin that said, I won. You are finished. This is my life now. Marcus, by contrast, looked haggard. He was thinner, his expensive suit hanging off him. He looked like a man being consumed from the inside out, but he still sat protectively beside his new life. All rise, the bailiff called. Judge Amelia Warren entered a woman in her 60s with a reputation for suffering no fools. She surveyed the courtroom, her eyes lingering for a moment on the 2 pregnant women. The morning was a blur of legal torture. David Stone Marcus's lawyer was a true shark. He called Marcus to the stand first. Mr. Hayes, Stone began, his voice dripping with false sympathy. Please tell the court about the breakdown of your marriage. For an hour, Marcus lied. He painted Elena as distant, cold, and obsessed with her social status. He described her as unstable since the pregnancy. And then, Marcus said, choking back a crocodile tear, I discovered her infidelity, the text messages, the secret meetings. Stone produced the evidence, the faked photographs of Elena and Liam Ryder. These photos, Mr. Hayes, they were taken by a private investigator. Yes, Marcus said, shaking his head sadly. I didn't want to believe it. But she was seeing another man. That's when I knew the marriage was over, and it made me question everything. Including, Stone pushed, the paternity of her child. Objection. Sarah Jenkins was on her feet. Speculation, malicious and unfounded, sustained, Judge Warren said, frowning. Move on, Mr. Stone. But the damage was done. The implication hung in the air, Elena was the adulterer. Then Chloe Bennett was called, not as a witness for the divorce, but as a character witness regarding the division of assets. She glided to the stand, a picture of glowing, wronged motherhood. Ms. Bennett, Stone said, you and Mr. Hayes are in a relationship. We are, Chloe breathed, clutching her pearls. We fell in love. It wasn't planned. I tried to respect his marriage, but his wife was so cold. He was so unhappy. And you are now expecting his child? Yes. She smiled a beatific, angelic smile directly at Marcus. A baby boy. We are so blessed. All we want is to be a family. But Mrs. Hayes, Elena, she's made it impossible. The threats, the harassment. Objection, Sarah roared. This is hearsay and blatant perjury. I'll allow it, the judge said, her eyes narrowing. But I'm warning you, Ms. Bennett, you are under oath. Be very careful. Chloe's smile wavered for a fraction of a second, then returned brighter than ever. She won't let him go. She's trying to ruin us. After 2 hours of this, the court recessed for lunch. Elena sat in the hallway, unable to eat, her entire body vibrating with stress and rage. She's lying about everything, Elena whispered to Sarah. They're just making it all up, and the judge is listening. It's performance, Elena, Sarah said, her face grim. Right now they're winning the performance, but the facts are on our side. It's your turn after lunch. You just have to get up there and tell the truth. We have the trust documents. We have the PI's perjury. We have the other thing. The other thing was the sealed envelope Sarah's team had successfully subpoenaed. The one that had been delivered to Judge Warren's clerk that morning to be held until Sarah called for it. The paternity file. At 2:00 p.m., the court resumed. The defense calls Elena Hayes to the stand, Sarah announced. Elena walked one step at a time to the witness box. Her heart felt like a trapped bird in her chest. She was sworn in. Mrs. Hayes, Sarah began gently. Please tell the court in your own words what happened to your marriage. Elena took a deep breath. She looked at Marcus. He wouldn't meet her eyes. She looked at Chloe. Chloe was staring right at her. She was rubbing her pregnant belly, that same smug, victorious grin plastered on her face. She leaned over to Marcus and whispered something. He smiled. They were laughing at her. Elena's vision tunneled. The room suddenly felt incredibly hot. The smell of the courtroom's old wood polish and floor wax was suffocating. Mrs. Hayes, Sarah's voice sounded far away. Elena began. She tried to speak, but no sound came out. She clutched the railing of the witness box. She looked at Chloe again. The grin widened. Chloe mouthed a single word. Loser. A white-hot pain, sharp and terrifying, shot through Elena's abdomen. It wasn't a contraction. It was a spike of pure, agonizing stress. She gasped, her hand flying from the railing to her belly. The baby, she whispered. Black spots danced in her eyes. The judge's face swam. Chloe's grinning, monstrous face was the last thing she saw. Mrs. Hayes! Sarah screamed. Elena's knees buckled. She pitched forward, collapsing onto the courtroom floor in a heap of navy blue wool. Pandemonium. Bailiff call 911, Judge Warren shouted, banging her gavel. Clear the court! Clear the court, now! Paramedics rushed in. Sarah was at Elena's side. It's okay, Elena. You're okay. Just breathe. Elena was conscious, but barely tears of pain and terror streaming down her face. The baby. Save my baby. As she was wheeled out on a gurney, she saw them. Marcus standing there looking panicked, not for her, but for his trial. And Chloe. Chloe Bennett wasn't grinning anymore. She looked furious. She looked inconvenienced. Her perfectly scripted day had just been ruined. The flashing lights of the ambulance gave way to the sterile white lights of St. Jude's Hospital. Elena was rushed into the maternity trauma ward, her mind a fog of pain and fear. Dr. Helen Shaw, a no-nonsense obstetrician, took charge. She's tachycardic and her blood pressure is through the roof, Dr. Shaw ordered. This is a severe panic attack, possibly triggering preterm labor. Get her on a magnesium drip now. For hours, Elena drifted in and out of a terrified haze, the rhythmic beep of the fetal heart monitor, the only thing tethering her to reality. The sharp pains eventually subsided, replaced by a deep, bone-crushing exhaustion. Her daughter was safe for now. But the diagnosis was clear. Placental abruption minor brought on by extreme stress, Dr. Shaw told her, her face grim. You're not in labor, but you are on the ragged edge. Elena, I am ordering you on complete mandatory hospital bed rest until this baby is born. If you set foot in that courtroom again, you could lose this child. Do you understand me? Elena nodded, tears welling up again. I understand. She had lost. She couldn't testify. She couldn't fight. Chloe had won. That evening, Sarah Jenkins arrived. She looked exhausted, but her eyes were electric. She's stable for now, Sarah said, relief flooding her face. It doesn't matter. Elena whispered, her voice rough. I can't go back. David Stone, he'll file for a default judgment. He'll say I'm faking it. They'll get everything. No, they won't, Sarah said, pulling her chair closer. Your collapse changed everything. Judge Warren is furious. She saw Chloe's face. She saw Marcus's inaction. She's not a fool. But I can't testify. You don't have to, Sarah said, leaning in. You've already given us everything we need. While you were in the ambulance, David Stone did try to file for a summary judgment. Judge Warren denied it. She said, and I quote, Given the extraordinary circumstances and the visible distress caused to Mrs. Hayes, this hearing is adjourned for 48 hours. And I will be hearing the defense's full case whether Mrs. Hayes is present or not. But our case, it was built on my testimony. The faked photos, the trust. Exactly. Sarah said, a slow, dangerous smile spreading across her face. They faked evidence. They committed perjury. And they did it to cover up a conspiracy. And you, my dear, just gave me the key to unlock the whole thing. I don't understand. What did I give you? When you were being wheeled out, Sarah said, you were delirious. You were muttering. You kept saying, he's a fool. He'll burn for her. The fire. The fire. 08:14. Elena's eyes widened. Oh my God. I don't even remember. I do. What is 08:14, Elena? It was our second anniversary, Elena whispered. The anniversary of the first time No, I found out later. It wasn't our anniversary. It was the date he met Chloe Bennett. He told me it was the day he closed his first big deal. He lied. He's been celebrating her with me for years. And the fire, his private vault. Elena said, the pieces clicking into place. At the Oratech office, it's fireproof. He always bragged, everything that really matters is in the fire. His father's watch, the original code for Oratech, and he said his real will. The code is 0814. Sarah Jenkins was already on her phone. Jack, I need you. Get to the Aura Tech building. I'm overnighting an emergency warrant to open a private safe belonging to Marcus Hayes. We're not just looking for a will. We're looking for everything. And Jack, I need you to find Liam Ryder, now. While Jack Carver, the ex-cop PI, set off on his tasks, Sarah moved to her second target. The anonymous email had given them the motive. The subpoena for Dr. Alistair Finch's office had given them the weapon. Sarah had received the fax from the doctor's office just minutes before court that morning. It was a single-page lab report, a prenatal non-invasive paternity test. It had been commissioned by Chloe Bennett. The alleged father listed was Liam Ryder. The result was 99.999% father. So, Sarah said to her associate back in the office. Marcus's lawyer presented faked photos of Elena with Liam Ryder to prove her infidelity. But in reality, Liam Ryder is the father of Chloe's baby. She didn't just frame Elena, she framed her with her own boyfriend. It's diabolical, the associate whispered. It's sloppy, Sarah corrected. She got arrogant. She thought she'd won. Now let's go see what's in that fireproof vault. The next 48 hours were a blur of frenetic legal action. While Elena rested under medical supervision, Sarah Jenkins waged a silent, lightning-fast war. Jack Carver, her PI, was a ghost. He found Liam Ryder at a high-end Equinox gym in Chelsea, New York. Ryder was exactly as described, handsome, arrogant, and muscular. He was training a wealthy client, but his eyes were glued to his phone. Carver watched him for 3 hours. He saw Ryder take a call, his face lighting up. It's almost done, baby. Carver overheard Ryder say, his voice low, but excited. Yeah, she collapsed. Stress, I guess. Stone says it's even better for us. Makes her look unstable. He's a genius. No, Marcus has no idea. He's eating out of my hand. Our hand. I love you. Carver recorded every word. The second part of the mission was the vault. With an emergency warrant citing active conspiracy to defraud the court and hide marital assets, a forensic team with Sarah present cracked open Marcus's fireproof safe at 3 a.m. It wasn't full of sentimental treasures. It was an arsenal of deceit. Inside they found 1. A hard drive containing the original undoctored photos of Elena having coffee alone, and the raw Photoshop files where Liam Ryder had been added. 2. An audio file. It was a recording of Marcus and David Stone. So we'll present the photos of her with Ryder, Stone's voice said. It plants the seed. We'll claim he's the father of her baby. It's enough to void the prenup. By the time she can prove paternity, the divorce will be final, the assets will be in the trust, and you and Chloe will be on a beach. 3. And the final damning item, a secret prenuptial agreement. Not between Marcus and Elena. It was an agreement between Marcus Hayes and Chloe Bennett. It was dated 2 months ago. It stipulated that upon his divorce from Elena, Marcus would marry Chloe. In return for her loyalty and bearing his firstborn son, she would be granted 50% of his shares in Aura Tech and sole control of the $20 million Hayes Future Fund. It was a contract for the heist. And Marcus had signed it. Sarah now had the complete story. The lie. Elena was an unstable adulterer. The truth, Chloe and her real boyfriend Liam Ryder had targeted Marcus. The con, they convinced Marcus to divorce his wife, frame her, and sign over his fortune. The weapon, Chloe's baby fathered by Liam, was being passed off as Marcus's firstborn son. The smoking gun, the paternity test from Dr. Finch's office. Sarah collected it all into a single devastating package. She labeled the master file Exhibit D, the paternity file. This file didn't just contain the DNA test, it contained the entire conspiracy, the audio recordings, the fraudulent photos, the secret prenup, and the transcript of Liam Ryder's phone call. The morning of the hearing, Sarah Jenkins walked into courtroom 3B. Elena was not with her. Her place at the defense table was empty. David Stone and Marcus Hayes were already there. Stone looked smug. He believed he had won. Marcus just looked tired. And then Chloe Bennet made her entrance. She was wearing white, an angelic virginal color. She saw the empty defense table, and her face split into that same triumphant grin. She sat down, put her hand on Marcus's, and winked at David Stone. "All rise." Judge Warren entered. Her face was granite. "Mr. Stone," the judge began, her voice like ice, "your client, Mrs. Hayes, is medically unable to be here." "A terrible shame, Your Honor," Stone said, rising. "We wish her a speedy recovery. However, as the defense is unable to present a witness, we move for a default judgment." "Your motion is denied, Mr. Stone," the judge snapped. "Counselor Jenkins, I trust you are prepared to proceed on behalf of your client." Sarah Jenkins stood. "We are, Your Honor. The defense is prepared to present its case. In fact, we find we no longer need Mrs. Hayes's testimony at all. The evidence we've uncovered speaks for itself. We would like to call Ms. Chloe Bennet to the stand for cross-examination." The courtroom buzzed. Stone looked stunned. "Your Honor, Miss Bennet has already testified." "She has, and I am recalling her. Get in the box, Ms. Bennet," the judge ordered. The grin was gone. Replaced by a flicker of confusion and annoyance, Chloe Bennet walked back to the witness stand. She was sworn in again. "Miss Bennet," Sarah began, her voice calm and polite. "You testified 2 days ago that you are in a loving, monogamous relationship with Mr. Hayes, correct?" "That's right," Chloe said, regaining her composure. "We are deeply in love." "And you testified that you are 6 months pregnant with his son." "Yes, he is the father." Chloe beamed at Marcus. "We can't wait to start our family." "You seem very certain, 100% certain." "Absolutely," Chloe said, laughing lightly. "I only sleep with one man, Ms. Jenkins." "That's a fascinating claim." Sarah walked back to her table. "Because the defense has uncovered some inconsistencies." She placed a document on the projector. It was a lease agreement for a luxury apartment in Chelsea. "Is this your signature, Ms. Bennet, on a lease dated 1 year ago?" Chloe paled. I may have rented an apartment for a friend." "A friend named Liam Ryder." David Stone shot to his feet. "Objection, relevance. This is a fishing expedition." "It is the entire case, Your Honor," Sarah said. "Overruled," the judge snapped. "Answer the question, Ms. Bennet." "He's a friend from my gym." Chloe was breathing faster. Her eyes darted to Marcus, who was watching, utterly confused. "Just a friend," Sarah continued. "Then perhaps you can explain these photographs." She projected Jack Carver's surveillance photos. Liam on the phone. "This is Mr. Ryder yesterday on the phone. Our investigator recorded his conversation. He was speaking to a woman he called Baby. He was telling her that Marcus has no idea and that their plan was working perfectly." "Were you that baby, Ms. Bennet?" "No, that's taken out of context. It's a lie," Chloe shrieked. "Was it a lie when you had him pose for faked photographs with my client to frame her for adultery? Photographs you and Mr. Hayes and Mr. Stone planned to use to void her prenup." "Objection," Stone bellowed. "Counsel is testifying." Then let me present evidence, Sarah said. She held up a hard drive. This was recovered from Mr. Hayes's private safe. It contains the audio recording of you, Mr. Stone, and Mr. Hayes planning the entire fraudulent scheme. Would you like me to play it for the court? David Stone sat down, his face the color of ash. Marcus looked at the hard drive, then at Chloe, his mind visibly painfully trying to process the information. Chloe, what is she talking about? She's lying, Marcus, Chloe cried. She's a desperate crazy. But my final exhibit, Sarah Jenkins said, her voice cutting through the panic, is the one I think the court will find most illuminating, Your Honor. I would like to unseal and present Exhibit D. We call it the Paternity file. A bailiff retrieved the thick, sealed manila envelope from the clerk and handed it to Judge Warren. The courtroom was so quiet, you could hear the frantic scratching of the sketch artist's charcoal. Chloe Bennett was white as a sheet. She was gripping the railing of the witness box, her knuckles cracking. This is harassment. It's an invasion of my privacy. It is a court-ordered subpoena for medical records relevant to a case in which you have claimed under oath to be carrying the heir to the Hayes Oratech fortune, Sarah said, her voice like steel. Records you commissioned. Judge Warren opened the file. She read the first page. Her expression didn't change, but her knuckles whitened. She read the second page. She looked up over her glasses, first at David Stone, then at Marcus, and finally at Chloe Bennett. Ms. Bennett, the judge said, her voice dangerously quiet. I am going to ask you one more time, under penalty of perjury, a crime which carries a sentence of up to 5 years in this state. Is Marcus Hayes the father of your unborn child? This was it, the moment of no return. Chloe looked at Marcus, who was staring at her, his face a mask of dawning, sickening horror. She looked at David Stone, who was discreetly packing his briefcase. She was alone. The mask of the sweet, wronged victim dissolved. Her face contorted into a snarl of pure, unfiltered rage. You bitch, she spat not at the judge, but at Sarah. You ruined everything. So he is not the father, Sarah pressed. So what? Chloe shrieked. He wanted it. He wanted a son. He wanted me. He was happy to throw her away, wasn't he? He was happy to sign the papers. Who cares about some stupid DNA? A collective gasp sucked the air from the room. Marcus Hayes made a sound, a low animal noise of profound betrayal. Chloe, what? No. Judge Warren, Sarah said, her voice booming in the small room. Let the record show that Ms. Bennett has admitted to perjury, but for the sake of clarity, allow me to read from Exhibit D. She placed the document on the projector for the entire court to see. Paternity test results. Client Chloe Bennett. Alleged father Liam Ryder. Probability of paternity 99.999%. Father confirmed. The courtroom exploded. Marcus Hayes slumped forward, his head in his hands, his shoulders shaking. It's not mine, he whispered over and over. It's not my son. It never was Mr. Hayes, Sarah said. It was a con, a 3-year con orchestrated by Ms. Bennett and her actual partner, Mr. Ryder. They targeted you for your wealth. They planned to frame your wife, steal your assets, and raise their child on your dime. Judge Warren banged her gavel, her face a thundercloud. Silence, silence in this court. She looked at Chloe Bennett. Ms. Bennett, you are a despicable fraud. You have lied under oath. You have conspired to defraud this court, to defraud Mr. Hayes, and to defraud Mrs. Hayes. Bailiff, take Ms. Bennett into custody. What? No, Chloe scrambled, trying to get out of the witness box. You can't. I'm pregnant. Marcus, tell them you love me, Marcus. But Marcus was broken. He didn't even look up. 2 bailiffs took her by the arms. The grin was gone, replaced by a mask of desperate, terrified fury. As they pulled her past the bar, she lunged not at Sarah, but at Marcus. "You weak, stupid old fool!" she screamed, her voice echoing. "I gave you everything, you ruined me. You were supposed to be my ticket. You ruined my life." She was dragged, kicking and screaming from the courtroom. Judge Warren took a long, steadying breath. She looked at the wreckage of the plaintiff's table. David Stone was gone, having slipped out. Marcus Hayes was sobbing. "Mr. Hayes," the judge said. Her voice was devoid of pity. "Given the evidence of conspiracy, perjury, and fraud against your own wife, this court is immediately ruling in favor of the defendant, Elena Hayes, on all counts." "The divorce is granted," she declared. "The prenuptial agreement is not only voided, it is reversed. Due to the conspiracy to hide marital assets, 100% of the $20 million hidden in the Cayman Trust is awarded to Mrs. Hayes. The court also awards Mrs. Hayes punitive damages, namely 75% of Mr. Hayes's personal shares in Oratech, effective immediately." Marcus's head snapped up, his face slick with tears. "What? No. That's my company. You can't." "I can and I have," Judge Warren said. "Furthermore, the marital home is awarded to Mrs. Hayes. You will vacate the premises by 5 o'clock today. And Mr. Hayes, I am referring this entire case, including the audio recordings of you and Mr. Stone, to the district attorney's office. You may have been a fool, sir, but you were also a criminal. This court is adjourned." The gavel banged. It was over. Sarah Jenkins stood alone at the defense table. She closed her files, packed her bag, and walked out of the courtroom past the broken man who had tried to destroy his wife and into the sunlight. Her first call was to the hospital. "Elena," she said, a smile finally breaking on her face. "We won. You're free. And you're a very, very wealthy woman." In the hospital room, Elena listened, and for the first time in months, she cried. Not tears of pain or fear or rage, but tears of relief. She put a hand on her belly. "We're safe," she whispered. "It's over." 3 weeks later, Elena Hayes gave birth to a healthy, beautiful baby girl. She named her Lily. The fallout from the trial was immediate and catastrophic for everyone else. Chloe Bennett was found guilty of perjury and conspiracy to commit fraud. She gave birth to her son in a state correctional facility and was sentenced to 7 years. Her son was placed in foster care. Liam Ryder, faced with overwhelming evidence, testified against Chloe. He was convicted on a lesser fraud charge and served 18 months. David Stone was disbarred. The audio recording of him planning to fabricate evidence was played on every news channel in the state. Marcus Hayes was the most spectacularly ruined. He was charged with conspiracy and perjury. He pleaded guilty, avoiding jail time, but receiving 5 years of probation and a $2.5 million fine. He lost his company, Elena, as the new majority shareholder had him summarily fired from the board of Oratech. He lost his home. He lost his reputation. He was in an instant a social and financial pariah. 6 months passed. The glass and cedar house in Greenwich was no longer a cold, sterile museum. It was filled with life. The muted beiges were gone, replaced with warm colors. The silent hallways now echoed with the sounds of baby Lily gurgling and the laughter of Elena and her sister Isabel, who had moved in to help. Elena sat in the nursery, the one Chloe had threatened to redecorate. It was painted a soft, creamy yellow. Elena was rocking her daughter, singing a quiet song. She was no longer the shattered, terrified woman who had collapsed in court. She was a mother. She was a survivor. She was the CEO of her own life. Her phone buzzed on the side table. It was a text from an unknown number. "Elena, it's Marcus. I know I have no right to ask. I am so sorry for all of it. I was a fool. I lost everything. I want to see her, just once. Please." Elena read the message. She looked at the man's pathetic plea. She thought of the woman who had collapsed the betrayal, the faked photos, the grin. She thought of the cold, dismissive man who had told her he'd have a car, send her things, and who'd questioned the paternity of the child now sleeping in her arms. She looked down at Lily's perfect, peaceful face. With a steady thumb, Elena Hayes pressed delete and blocked the number. She kissed her daughter's forehead, stood up, and walked to the vast window, looking out at the calm, sunlit water of the Sound. It was her house. It was her daughter. It was her future. And it was finally quiet. In the end, the truth came out. Not because of a dramatic courtroom confession, but because of a single forgotten file, a file that proved a lie has no foundation. Elena, in her darkest moment, found the strength to hold on, and the system for once worked. She didn't just win her case. She reclaimed her life, her home, and her power, proving that the most dangerous person isn't the one who screams, but the one who plans. What do you think of Elena's final decision to delete Marcus's text? Was it justice, or was it cold? Let us know in the comments below. This story is a reminder that the truth always has a way of coming to light. If you love stories of dramatic justice, shocking twists, and survivors who get the last laugh, please hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to see a villain get what they deserve, and subscribe to our channel for more unbelievable true-to-life drama every single week. Click that notification bell so you never miss a moment.